Welcome into the YouTube edition of Prep Picks, and the YouTube edition this week looks a lot like the TV version. We got Andrew on assignment and Casey on the beach somewhere. So maybe I'll follow this list that he gave me. Maybe I won't, especially since he's in sole possession of first place now. Very trusting to leave me with a list. The guys have left me their picks, and we will go through these games that we went on TV and then add a few more. We will start with, I think, is one of the more intriguing games of the playoffs in the first round, just because you don't see Maryville go on the road very often in the playoffs. But here we are. Congratulations, Science Hill. You're at home. Congratulations, Science Hill. You get the Rebels. So, Cole, we'll start with you. Who do you like in this one?
Well, you know, when these two teams met earlier in the year, back in week 4 or 5, whatever it was early on, it was mid-September. I don't think we really knew who Science Hill was. They didn't have much of an identity. Since then, they've gone through a quarterback change. Their offense is humming. They had a couple of shutout wins. They survived in overtime against DB last week. It gives me a little confidence. Maryville, we don't know what happened with that loss to Farragut last week. I went in thinking I was going to be the only crazy person to do this. But I think Steve might be on my side as well. So I'm just going to stick with it. I'm going with the upset.
Yeah,
Science Hill, toppers.
I'm surrounded by crazy people, apparently.
Hey, you see my record. Speaks for
Steve is
itself.
trying to catch up. I don't know what I'm doing.
I mean, this is like the old Gin Blossoms record. Congratulations, I'm sorry, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I mean, Science Hill appreciates your support.
Oh, yes. Well, you look at this Maryville team, 6-4. I think 4 losses in the regular season is the most that Maryville lost in the regular season since George Quarles' second year. I think they started like 0-4. Oh, by the way, they won the state title that year too, by the way. So anyway, they have a history of coming back from 4 losses. But you look at the schedule, okay? Bradley Central, the region champion, they lost by 8. Bearden lost by 1 in overtime. They're the runner-up. Knox West, defending 5A champion. Maryville lost by 7 to them. With the injuries Maryville's had at quarterback, and with Gage Ledoux, their outstanding running back, he's going to Air Force being out, you kind of see that. What you didn't see was last week against Farragut, at home against Farragut at that as well. So Ledoux is supposed to be cleared. He's only carried the ball 5 times the last 2 weeks, though. So that's a real big question mark for me. If he's back, this upset pick is going to be even more difficult. Don't forget, Maryville also brings a freshman quarterback into this on the road in the playoffs for the first time. I expect Emmett Watson to play. Did not play last week against against Dobbins-Bennett. I expect him to be back, just like what Science Hill's done. They have proven they can win games through the air, and what they did last week on the ground against Dobbins-Bennett. I picked this upset first on TV, by the way. So I'm taking,
Steve takes credit.
I need a 2-point conversion. I'm two games behind. I'm taking Science Hill in this one.
All right, well, I will tell you that myself, Casey, and Andrew are all on the same page, which Casey's the leader, so I like being on the same page as him. Andrew, maybe not so much, but we're all going with Maryville. We're all going with the safe pick.
Casey clearly doesn't have focus this week. Let's be honest with you. He has no focus.
Well, he set these picks before we even knew what the matchups were. So, I mean, that tells you what he thinks. But I just think this, Maryville, they are who they are. And much like I said with Graham and much like I said with Greenville and some of these other teams, until you can beat them, I'm going to pick you. And I hope Science Hill proves me wrong, because that would be great for this area and for the kids of Johnson City. So go out there and prove us wrong, Science Hill, because I think that would be amazing.
Prove me right.
Ankle. All right, next pick is Greeneville versus Fulton. The Green Devils got cleared a big hurdle. They'll have to see Elizabethton again, I'm sure, in the playoffs, but they cleared the first hurdle in that, which is they will now play at home throughout the playoffs. Do they clear this hurdle the opening week, maybe overlooking Fulton a little bit, Steve?
Well, that would be easy to do, and this certainly isn't the Fulton team that we got used to several years ago that was rolling through and winning state championships. Fulton won 2 games this year. Those 2 teams combined to go 2-18. I think that was South Doyle and Seymour happened to be in their region. That's how you qualify at 2-8. Fulton has put some points on the board. They've given up a whole bunch of points, too. 97 points the last 2 weeks against, I believe, Carter and Gibbs. I think Greenville could score 97 if they want to. They won't, but they're going to win this one big.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree. We knew Greenville, again, had the recipe this year to make a run, get to the end, win a state title. I think we got just confirmation Friday night going and winning on the road at Elizabethton, the only other real powerhouse here in this area. That gave me confidence that they can do it. They're not going to have any trouble here in the first round. They shouldn't anyway. And one thing I looked at too, Fulton lost to Anderson County, who might be a matchup with Greenville in a couple of weeks down the road. We'll see. Beat them 50-14, so I'm liking Greenville's chances.
We're all in agreement here. Greenville across the board. The boys both picked Greenville as well. I mean, like I said with Maryville, Greenville's the man. To be the man, you got to beat the man. Greenville is the man. All right, Hampton versus Polk County. The Bulldogs have come on strong here at the end of the season and look like they might be maybe a contender in Class 2A. Cole, do you like them against scrappy Polk County?
Yeah, they're playing they're playing the best football out of most of the teams we've seen here over the last course of the month or two of the season. They put up 50 points in like 5 straight games. Handled South Green pretty good last week. We knew there were some questions with South Green going in. They struggled the second half of the year, but the way Hampton played and beat them last Friday just shows me that they're ready for playoff football, and they're going to at least roll through here the first week or two, so I think they have no problems.
Yeah, Polk County, the Wildcats come in. I think they've lost 3 of the last 4, so they kind of limp into the postseason. Polk County's played decent defense this year at times. Gave up 47 to Class 5A Walker Valley, 40 to York Institute, which went unbeaten and won that region, by the way. The runner-up was Bledsoe County that scored 35 on Polk County. But this Hampton team, that offense is absolutely rolling right now. Put up another huge number last week. 7 wins in a row, averaging 49 points a game. They're going to make it 8 this week.
Again, the crowd all agrees. The Peanut Gallery, both the boys and myself, are picking Hampton as well. Let's talk a little bit about the last game of the regular season in Virginia, because there are some intriguing matchups on the schedule for this last week, starting with Chilhowie and Holston playing each other. Chilhowie needs a win to get into the playoffs. I believe they're sitting 8th right now in the PowerPoints, Steve's favorite.
Nice.
You beat a team that's already comfortably in the playoffs in Holston, and I think that might get them into the playoffs depending on how the rest of the matchups shake up. But Steve, how do you like Chilhowie's chances?
Yeah, Chilhowie definitely comes in as a more desperate team as far as those playoff points are concerned. Last week led Patrick Henry 13-7 at halftime, and it just completely fell apart in the second half. Chilhowie outrushed 333-11. You don't win many football games doing that, especially against a Holston team that had a big 2-point conversion last week, solidified its spot in the playoffs. I just think momentum-wise and what they have kind of done against the common opponents in the district, Cole will talk more about that, but I think that lends Holston to winning this game.
Right, yeah, I was leaning Chilhowie early in the week looking at this, just based on the fact that we talked about them needing a win. It'd be a huge, after starting 4-0, lost 4 straight, huge to come back, overcome those 4 losses, win, get in the playoffs. But then you look at those common opponents and the way that Holston played common opponents like Narrows, Northwood, Honeacre, Rural Retreat, all those teams, it just looks a lot better, at least on paper, than the way Chilhowie played against them. And because of that, I'm just going to, at the end of the day, I have to lean to Holston in this one.
Another clean sweep as everybody goes with Holston. I love what's happened at Chilhowie this season. They're getting back to more looking like the Chilhowie that we're used to, and they're a really young team. I think they will get there next season. I think the experience of Holston pays off in this one. Rye Cove at Twin Springs. This is a battle for the 2 seed in Region 1D. Steve, who do you like in this one?
Well, if you like offense, you might like this game. I mean, Rye Cove put up 46 points on 20 plays last week, scoring on 7 of 8 drives. Meanwhile, Twin Springs, a school record 73 points and 600-plus total yards of offense. Unbelievable, the offense, these two teams. Obviously, they can score. So which one can maybe get a stop or two? It looks like statistically over the year, you would lean towards Rye Cove in that department. Don't forget, last week, Thomas Walker had over 400 yards against Twin Springs, but turned it over 4 times. I just think Rye Cove will get a stop or 2 more, and maybe the only 2 stops in the game, frankly. I think Rye Cove's defense gets 1 or 2 stops more and wins this game.
Right, you might just need that one stop, just one play. Two explosive offenses. We've known that all season, and we knew weeks ago that this was going to come down to the final game of the year for the district title. It should be a fireworks show. You look at it, and Cove might have a better defense by just a slight edge, a few more shutouts. Twin Springs has given up a couple of scores, and even those games they won big, but I don't know how much you put into that with, backup defenses going in, giving up points at the end after the game's already over in the second, third quarter. So I'm not going to look too much into that. So at the end of the day, I'm probably going to be on my own on this one. It worked for me last week. I was the only one on Unicoi County. Got it right. I'm going to go with Twin Springs in this one. Winning at home to end the year should be a fun one.
I was also on Unicoi County last week.
Oh, you were? Sorry. Sorry, Heather. I'll give you. Sorry.
I didn't do very well last week. You got to give me that one.
I think I was surprised. I thought I was going to be the one, but you surprised me with that.
You will be alone this week in this one because the guys are both taking Cove, and so am I. But I do want to get credit for my Unicoi pick because
dissing the boss, man, that never works out.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, I can take it. I'm a big girl. All right, let's go back over to Tennessee for a few more of those playoff games because there's a handful of them that are kind of intriguing. Elizabethton versus Carter out of Knoxville, correct?
Correct.
How do the Cyclones rebound, Cole, after their first loss of the season?
I think they rebound well. They lost to Greeneville. We knew that was a toss-up. It was going to go either way. Elizabethton was down 13-0. They hang in there. They had a chance to take a lead before the half last week, and then they kind of just got crushed at the end there by a 48-yard field goal that kind of put the game away. That doesn't take anything away from truly how good this team has been all season long. I don't think they have any trouble here in the first one or two games. I'm looking forward to Greenville Elizabethton matchups in a couple of weeks.
I think whoever would have lost that game last week, I don't doubt the ability to bounce back this week. It's a little quicker than it has been in years past because it was the last game of the season, but each team knows what it takes to get to that quarterfinal round in that rematch. And Elizabethton, it starts Friday night against a Carter team that's coached, I believe, by former volunteer coach Justin Presley, is still with the Hornets as well. They've won 3 of the last 4, including a solid win over Northview Academy, which at least made Elizabethton and Greenville sweat a little bit in those matchups. So I like what Coach Presley's doing at Carter, but this Elizabethton team, they're going to refocus. They know what it takes to move on down the road, and Elizabethton wins this handily.
Another clean sweep. We should just bring a broom out here. We're all going with Elizabethton. I have a feeling there might be some different picks coming up. So speaking of coming up, Sullivan East at Anderson County. This is not the Anderson County team that won the state championship a year ago.
It isn't, but don't be deceived by that 6-4 record either. I mean, they lost to 2 6A runner-up teams. They lost to a 5A region champion and to a 5A runner-up. So this Mavericks team is really, really good, scoring a lot of points. Last week, 177 yards on the ground from their running back, Moog, I think is his name. And Sullivan East, meanwhile, look at what they did last week. I mean, Drake Fisher threw the ball 65 times last week, okay? Because Coach Simmons is going to have to go to the rule book for baseball and see if he's going to have to put his quarterback on a pitch count, okay? 65 pitches, I mean, it's a lot. Completed 40 for 450 yards, 6 touchdowns. It's different going to Anderson County. Sullivan East has never been there before. This is a completely different environment in the playoffs on the road. Anderson County's been there many, many times. Experience-wise, plays in their favor. The ability to run the football, keep Fisher off the field. I like Anderson County.
Yeah, we've talked about Sullivan East quite a bit this year, and it seems like we're trying to push them towards that elite level. We've seen bits and pieces of how good they can be offensively when they put the ball in Drake Fisher's hands 60 times a game, and they've made it look easy at some points, but then we've seen the moments where they're playing the Elizabethtons and the Greenevilles, and they just don't match up. And I think they're getting closer and closer. Unfortunately, they lose Drake Fisher after this season. We'll have to see what goes from there. But this offense might be able to put up some points. But like Steve said, going on the road, playing against a perennial team in the postseason, that's just so hard to do. I don't see them pulling it off. I'll take Anderson County.
So I do believe that both of the boys took Anderson County as well. But you know what? I got to make up a game, right?
Wow.
I got to make up a game. I love Drake Fisher. Is he enough to single-handedly carry them across the line against Anderson County? I don't know. Is this their best shot to do it? Probably so. I mean, as long as you have Elizabethton and Greenville in your region, you're always going to have to go on the road in the postseason unless they start getting those types of players. Anderson County is usually where you're going to end up. This is as down as Anderson County has been in a while. Come on, Patriots. Let's get this done. Going out on a limb here, I'm going to pick the Patriots.
That's an all-time. If that happens, that's an all-timer right there. All-time.
I mean,
we're going to hang that up in the
Put
studio.
it on the wall.
I can't just keep saying over and over again, we're all picking the same people. I'm getting bored here, and I'm sure people watching are getting bored too. Come on, Patriots. Prove me right. All right, another big one this week. Unicoi County, after their region championship, gets to play at home against Austin East. Another one of those perennial teams that's maybe not having the best season they've had in recent memory. Cole, who do you like in this one?
Well, they worked for me the last 2 weeks. They worked for Heather and I last week when no one else believed it. Unicoi County's been one of those sneaky good teams this year. I don't think we talked a lot about them early on in the year, and then these last 2 weeks, that shootout win in overtime against Chucky Doak, the big win over Johnson County, which lots of people didn't expect. This is a good football team, and they can score the football. They don't have any problem scoring points, and they can score fast. So I think when you bring a team that when you have an offense that can score that fast and that easily in the playoffs, that can be a problem. They say defense wins championships, but offense will carry you a couple games in. So I think Unicoi is going to handle their business here in the first round. Might get a little shakier down the road with their defense that struggled a bit, but we'll go with the Blue Devils here this Friday.
Yeah, Unicoi scored another 40 points last week. Unicoi County, I offer my sincere apology, okay, for that horrible pick I made last week. I'm not picking against you this week. This Austin East team has given up as many points as Unicoi County has been scoring about the same number of weeks. Unicoi County's put up 40 points now, I think 4 or 5 weeks in a row. Austin East, I think, won the last 2 weeks, but still the defense allowed an average of 29 points. Colby Jones, that sophomore quarterback for Unicoi, really keeps getting better and better every week. 5 touchdown passes last week to 3 different receivers. Blue Devils at home get the win.
So Andrew and Casey are also picking Unicoi County, and I'll say this about Unicoi County. I had them in my preseason top 5 Tuesday poll, and then they stumbled a little about the block, and it makes you have pause. They are now playing the way that I felt like they could play all season long. They finally found that groove. So I think they can probably win a couple of games in the playoffs if the cards fall right for them. I love this Unicoi County team. Final pick. It's a big one for the final week in Virginia. Marion at Virginia High. Winner probably in, loser probably out of the playoffs. Steve, who's going to keep going?
Are they 7-8? We're last week, 7-8. I think both teams won last week, probably going to stay about in that position. So, yes, that makes it a play-in to the playoff game. Marion last week rushed for 497 yards in that win. Meanwhile, Virginia High's defense, I think, only allowed 30 yards rushing. So it's kind of strength on strength kind of battle there. Just like what Virginia High's done the last 3 weeks, 3 wins in a row. They're at home. Common opponents doesn't really decipher things that much. I think there's like a 20-point differential. Cole's probably got that number for you. But I just gonna have to go with Virginia High at home. What they've done the last 3 weeks, that's been impressive. I'll take the Bearcats.
Yeah, this is going to be a good game. What I looked at is these are 2 teams that really pride on the defensive side of the ball. They're very physical. They like to dirty games up. These 2 teams win by making the game sloppy and you know, winning the physical battle at the line of scrimmage. They've both done a good job of that the last few weeks. But I think throughout the course of the year, from week 1 to now, I think Marion's done it a little bit better than Virginia High. They have, like you said, I'll give you that. They beat Lebanon by 20. They beat them pretty well. Virginia High almost let up they almost let that get away on Friday night in our Friday Night Rivals game against Lebanon. Richlands as well. Virginia High barely beat them on a last-second touchdown win by 1. I'm pretty sure Marion beat them by 20 or 21. So if you're looking at just those 2 games alone, Marion's handled the teams they should have more. It's going to be a battle. We'll say that. It might be a low-scoring game. I'm going to go with Marion, though, to come here and win on the road and get in the postseason.
So Casey and Andrew agree with Steve. They're going with Virginia High. My question is, would you rather have a super talented team that makes a bunch of mistakes or a really consistent team that doesn't have as much talent? Because that's basically what this comes down to. Virginia High's biggest opponent all year has been themselves. Penalties, turnovers, mistakes have been what has beaten Virginia High more than the opponent has. I'm going to pick Virginia High in this game, but if they continue to make the kind of mistakes that they've made, not only will they miss the playoffs because they'll lose this game against Marion, but they will not go very far once the playoff starts. So as long as Virginia High takes care of its own business, doesn't beat itself, I think they get the win on Friday. This has been much quicker without the guys. I'm not saying Andrew talks a lot, but
Yeah, it's not been as wordy, that's for sure.
well, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, you gu's for joining us. Be sure to check out TriCitySports.com, the best coverage of Northeast Tennessee athletics in the area, high school athletics. Steve does a phenomenal job, he and his staff. Join Cole and I for Friday night huddle. Actually, Cole going to be out in the field this week, so there'll be he'll be standing out in the cold. I'll be here nice and because that's one of the perks of being the boss.
There you go.
All right, so we'll see you Friday night, and enjoy the playoffs.